So one of the very clear teachings in Bhagavad Gita is that we should not entangle too much into the sense pleasures. In fact, we should strive to master them, right? So it is almost as if that we are standing in the middle of the road, and the road goes into two directions. One direction goes into the sense pleasures, and another direction goes to the self-realization and the contentment and the joy of the self, right? And Krishna is trying to move us from this direction of going into the sense pleasures to the direction of the joy of the self, right? So with the sense pleasure, the challenge is it is almost as if we are having sugar, or we are having these empty calories, right? It doesn't have any nutritious value. It tastes good, it's pleasurable, but it's very addictive also, right? So no nutritious value, very addictive, and a little bit pleasure that we get in the beginning, right? And so it's kind of the same with the sense pleasure. We get some pleasure in them, but we need to understand what is the whole deal, right? They are very addictive in their nature. If I look back into my past, I would not say like I'm most happy when I had that burger at that time, right? They doesn't have this quality of satisfaction, right? They're just pleasure, and they get very addictive in that. So that is what we need to understand, right? Like it cannot be like I am eating the burger all the times and I have no awareness that how it is affecting my health, right? So it is the same with sense pleasure that Krishna is trying to pointing out, that you need to understand their nature, right? And then make a choice. Then you can have a more educated choice about whether you want to engage, how much you want to engage in that. So what are the sense pleasures? There are 5 sense pleasures. The first one, let's say, is the tongue, the taste. And it is amazing like what people can sell us if it tastes good, right? The total junk food, something that is very unhealthy for our bodies, right? It could be sold to us if it tastes good, right? And that is what the senses do. They blind us. So and it could be very destructive for our body, right? The second one is the sight, right? So some beautiful sight, and then there is a teacher in Thailand, Ajahn, the Buddhist teacher, and he has a saying that the most beautiful sight for a man is the sight of a woman, right? Coming from a monk, pretty interesting. But it is true, right? This is the sense pleasure of the eyes, right? Again, very there is no inherent satisfaction into them, and it can get very addictive. Then the pleasure of the ears, music maybe, right? And it's again very amazing, like what word people can say, and we would like it and we will enjoy it if there is a music behind it that feels good, right? And if you look at more deeply, you would see like how primitive our experiences are, like how easily we can get manipulated with these senses. Then the fourth one is the touch, right? Touch, and you can also add the sexual pleasure into it. The pleasure we get out of sensations in the body, external sensation in the body. The fifth one is smell, right? Again, the same thing as other sense pleasures, right? So these sense pleasures, Ray Dalio also put it as you need to be aware of the second degree consequences of them, right? The first degree consequence is like I felt good, but we need to know there is second degree consequences to these sense pleasures, right? And then make a choice, right? Now Bhagavad Gita also says, the Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, is that as long as you haven't tasted something, so it's for us it is mostly like this is the pleasure I know, right? I know the senses taste good, but if I even renounce them even for a while, then what will I do? Like where will I find the pleasure, right? At least it can have the second degree consequences, it can have addiction and whatever, but at least I have some pleasure in the life, right? Otherwise there is not even that, then it will become very distressing, it will become very depressing, right? What Krishna is saying is also kind of the same thing. He's saying like as long as you didn't move enough in this direction and experience the joy of the self, there will be this desire for the sense pleasure, even though you're trying to renounce it, but still there will be some desire for the sense pleasure. But once you have tasted the satisfaction and the joy of the self, once you have moved enough in this direction, these desires go away, right? It's almost as if somebody has become healthy. Now, if you give him a donut, he would be probably not taking it, right? Especially when you know like what it is going to do to him. The same thing here, he's saying there is going to be this period where you are going to feel kind of unbalanced, where you're not feeling very satisfied, and the thing that you are doing to get at least some pleasure is going to be, attracting you, and you have to fight that battle there. Another thing that Krishna points out here is these senses are very, very strong. They are not something that you can just think, okay, from tomorrow I'm not going to engage in the sense pleasures. It's not going to happen that way. He's saying even for the very wise people, these senses are so strong that they can confuse their intellect also, right? They can hijack their intellect also. The intellect start to say things like, why if I leave this, then what will I do, and all this kind of stuff. So it is not an easy battle here, right? But this is what Krishna is pointing out, especially in the beginning. You need to have this mastery. It's not about the sense pleasure itself. You need to have the mastery of this senses, right? That you can make a choice. If you currently want to test yourself, you will notice that we don't have that mastery, right? The senses are completely ruling us. So this is the advice given here. Quite the interesting advice. In fact, in the poster of Bhagavad Gita, the Krishna is holding 5 reins to the 5 horses. These 5 horses are symbolic representation of the 5 senses that Krishna has a firm mastery over. Right. Another very interesting thing that's point out, it wasn't said in the same way, but it points out that Krishna is saying, if you want to enjoy the senses, do it after sacrifice. Right? Once you have done your offering and sacrifice, then you can enjoy the senses without getting this dissatisfaction in your mind, right? For example, if you did like a good hard work in the day, in the evening you can have your coffee, for example, right? And that coffee would not create the dissatisfaction and confusion in the mind. On the other hand, from the morning to evening, you just wake up at 8 o'clock and then you had a cup of coffee, then you went out, have a couple of burgers, chit chat, this and that. In the evening, you're having another burger or something like that, beer or something. That will create dissatisfaction in your mind, right? That is the nature of the senses, right? They're not going to make you fulfilled, but if you keep engaging more and more, you will feel more and more dissatisfied.